today's topic of Chew on This is amazing, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's amazing. I hope our people are excited to learn from us and see how things are going when you are a founder, but at the same time you want to have life. Do you have life
Yes,
besides being a founder, or
yes,
can
exactly,
you have life
exactly.
besides being a
And
founder?
I think it's a ever going learning, ongoing process, right? It's not something you've learned once, and I think it's also I love to talk about different seasons in life, right? And what it's hard to be all in 100% on everything, right? And I think there is always at the end of the day something that needs to be more important than other, even if it's in a given moment, right? And I think that's really interesting to talk about, right? Because if both work and travel and adventure are important to you as a person to have a complete and happy life, how the heck do you do that?
Yeah, so how the heck do you do that? That's a good question to kick off the discussion. I mean, honestly, I believe that a lot of people learned how to do it because of a pandemic, right? Because this is technically how we reconsidered I mean our opportunities and like what we can do in general. I can say that I was working and traveling before COVID for many years because my company wasn't remote back then, but I did. I took an opportunity every year to travel to the United States while I was still living in Ukraine to take some short-term courses for networking opportunities, and of course, just like to enjoy myself, technically, right? However, my business never stopped working, right? I mean, the team was there, but I was still with them, even like back then it was a little bit unusual not to be in the office on the
Right.
daily basis, technically, right? But we managed to do it, and I managed to do it, of course, with the time difference, but like now this is not even an issue. Now this is not even a problem. So I think like back then there was a question of logistics, like how you organize everything and how you set things up. I think nowadays it's more of like, do you allow yourself to do these things, right? So like
Yeah.
you as a founder, like, do you allow a combination of work and pleasure? Can you handle it? It's not only about allowing, I think it's also about handling that, right? Because like some people, they can't work if there is like a minimum level of the distraction, for example. So
Right.
that's
Yeah. Like folks who say that when people move to Miami, for example, they stop working.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely.
that
That's like the
conversation.
first question I ask. I mean, I get when people learn that I live in Miami, they're like, oh, like, first of all, of course,
Do
people think
people
that you
work
don't
in
work.
Miami?
Yeah, like you
Yes,
don't
they
work. That's the first thing. Do you
do.
actually work in Miami? I was like, yes. But like, again, speaking of Miami, I just want to reveal this secret to folks who don't live in Miami. I think that Miami is just for partying. It is a party city. Don't get us wrong. You can party as much as you want there, but also this also helps you to work every day because you're not afraid. You don't have FOMO, right? You're not afraid that you're gonna miss something because you have it every day. Like, we have these parties every day. So like sometimes I work on the weekend because I don't care. I sometimes, like, as an entrepreneur, you get your inspiration. So yeah, for example, if I get my inspiration, I can work on the weekend. But because I don't worry, if I really want to go and party, I can do this on Monday, because like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like every day we have something going on,
Right.
and it's as good as something that is happening over the weekend, for example. So yeah, so you when you start living there, you don't have this problem anymore, because like you have this like beauty around you every day. You don't need to hurry. Like, good weather is always there, but for the summer, right? So yeah, so technically you have access to everything.
Right.
And
Yeah. Well, I am responsible for practical here in the in this chat, little chat. So I want to make sure that today folks leave with some very practical things that they can implement to allow themselves to work and travel successfully. So I
Tell
actually
us.
wanted to build on something you said, Anna, which was about time difference. And to me, it's actually a hack. So in a way, when you are in a different time zone, as long as you can physically stomach that, right, and sustain a longer day, it's actually a huge benefit. So for example, actually, as I was selling the business, which is by many means perhaps is one of the most important milestones in the life of a startup, I was actually traveling with my daughter in California. And so, it was a road trip, so I actually had to drive a lot. And so I realized that actually the time difference was amazing, because I could basically get something done, Eastern time, right? Which was still like when she was sleeping, and, I didn't have to do things together. And then, I could put in 4 or 5 hours of work before actually like the day in California starts, and then I can go enjoy it. And similar, you can do with a lot of, locations in Europe, and perhaps other places as well. So I think the time difference actually can be used as a strategic advantage to make work and travel work quite well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I heard this from other founders as well. I mean, honestly, I find it hard, like working on the West Coast, because my team is in Europe. A lot of my team is in Europe, so that's like, for me, this is very stressful. Like, I mean, I did it 5 a.m. meetings. This is great, but like you said, if you wanna work and travel, this is actually good, because I mean, as long as you don't mind waking up super early, but you're done with your activities, even like, if your team is in Europe, you're done with your work activities by noon, because everyone is sleeping, and then you have the whole day to enjoy,
Right.
and like to I don't know, to travel, to just enjoy, to like go and see places. So yeah, definitely time difference. Like, again, this is all about your mindset. Do you see positives, or do you see, like, are you lingering to
Right.
negatives, right? So that's pretty much it. Another thing that I wanted, like the practical thing, since you're asking for it, when you travel, right, you have to be equipped with what you need, so that's like advanced planning. So for example, on this trip, and for you guys, we're both in New York with Vlada. We're not in the same place. We should have coordinated it better. But again, like you can't, you can. So,
We are working and traveling.
we're working and traveling, exactly. I had meetings in the morning, so I couldn't travel, so I was stationed here. So like, for example, on this trip, I didn't plan to do any kind of content, because like whatever I had to do, I did it. However, there was like an urgent thing, so I didn't have my microphone with me. I'm like, okay, shoot, I have to buy a new microphone, and like I don't have time, there's only one day. So that was like stressful. So that was not good for me, because like, I mean, I typically, because I have my
I was
blog as
surprised you don't have it with you.
I
I thought
know,
you
I
don't leave
know.
your house without.
Exactly. I don't know what happened this time, but I just like didn't bring it. And that's like the thing. Pack everything that you use on the daily for work, so that you don't have to get into, like, so that you don't have to stress out in case you need
Right.
something. Yeah. So anything that you, Vlada, want to say regarding, like, equipment or devices or something? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I didn't bring a router with me. That
Oh my God, that's right.
really.
You need a router. You need a router. Um,
Um. Yeah. Well, I think yes. I think preparation, but I think it also is not being too kind of too strong on yourself, right? Like allowing yourself to actually not do everything that you might have written down for a day, right? And just allowing for a bit more fluidity, because you know that you're balancing things, and balancing requires flexibility, right? And so, if I'm, let's say, recording a new course for my program, I had this internet issue, and I was like, what? Yes, my plan was to record it yesterday, but I had problem. So you just let people know, and you um, roll with it, right? And I think it's just founders. A lot of founders are obviously type A individuals who are used to keeping their commitments and executing at the top of what they consider our top standards. But you just have to be kind to yourself sometimes and allow for some things to just happen.
I agree. I agree. Well, that's technically resonates to what I said earlier, right? This is how you see things, and I think that because I've met founders who are like really strict, like by the book, discipline. I mean, I'm pretty disciplined, too, but I also allow space for creativity and for for like things like serendipity to happen. And this is like when you it happens when you like do things that you haven't tried, right? So
Right,
like doing some work while you're traveling is one thing, that if you never tried it, you might as well try it and see if like this is something that
right.
you like and enjoy. However, Vlada, I have a question, because some, I don't know if like, yeah, I had a conversation with someone, or maybe I read it somewhere, that like if you are like working all the time, you're not enjoying, so like you bring work home, and then you bring home to
Right.
work, and this like is this really good for us, right? Or are we like cheating here a little bit, because like because you are, so on the one hand you're traveling, so you're enjoying, but on the other hand you're still like taking meetings, doing live streams, so like
Yeah,
you're not getting the whole experience, like with, for example, as a real vacation.
disconnecting.
Yeah,
Yeah, properly disconnecting. That's such a fantastic question. I'm really curious about what folks who are listening have to say.
yes.
I think that for me, like and I wrote about it, like this sort of no laptop rule. Like for me, for example, weekends is something that in the last few years I just decided I'm not going to use a laptop on a weekend, for example, right? And so for me, that gives that like, and I sort of now physically kind of rebel every time I see an open laptop. I don't feel good on a weekend anymore, because and then when I meet it again on Monday, I can like go all in and be very productive. But for me, sort of that, I think, feels like enough time. Sometimes maybe it's like a longer weekend, but I don't think I necessarily, to properly enjoy, need like a long stretch of time. um but it also craving, yeah, I actually haven't tried it in a while, and maybe I should. Yeah, maybe. Yes, way back when. But yeah, I think that it's important just to have that separation. But I like you, I started working remotely back in 2010, actually. And back in the day when there was no video streaming, actually. And so yeah, and I proudly can say I got a number of promotions just as a voice on the what is it called, telecom, or like the loudspeaker. So folks wouldn't see me for months, but I was still functioning. So for me, and I think for you, it became a very comfortable skill to be remote, right? And learning the techniques, right? And I think that's now I don't even know that I would function so well if people were in the same office, right? It's a you can do things asynchronously. Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people now are moving to hybrid work, right? And or have some mixed number of days, right, in the office and remote. And I honestly found when in classic history, I managed to actually rent an office exactly on February 1, when everything closed in New York for COVID on March 1st. And still, yeah, months and months, literally for a year. And that was not fun. But in that month, I felt, maybe because it was so early, I felt that it was so hard to manage this hybrid environment because I had to repeat the same thing through the old channels where, Slack and documentation and things like that were already set up to work, was now, the water cooler conversations and other interactions. And so unless people are not random who end up in office relative to the functions they have in the company, it becomes very, very challenging, right? So I don't know, I'm a really, really big proponent of remote. Having said that, I think in particular in the early stages of a startup, it it is cool to be together as a tiny team, right? Because it just creates that very rapid iteration. When especially technical, non-technical, you can kind of pair up and work alongside each other. But anyway, I think that
Here's a quick question. Quick question for you. So, as a startup founder, let's say you're just like early stage startup founder, can you actually work and travel?
Yes, you can, but I think
As a mentor,
the
Vlada, what
depends.
would you say? Let's imagine that I'm an early stage startup founder. I come to you as my startup mentor, and I say, hey, Vlada, like I live in Miami, but I want to spend summer, I don't know, in Europe, and I'm just gonna be working from there, and connecting with the team. So what would you say?
Well, I think it really depends on the individual if they can make it work, right? I think, again, it requires a lot of discipline, and startup is all hands on deck, especially early days before you get any leverage, right? And so I think that's what makes it particularly challenging. But if you are strong and you can keep on going for a long time, I also don't know, in a way, it's interesting because it becomes, startups are a long game, right? People think of it as, hey, I'm going to build it, couple of years, sell it, boom, then I'm going to go on
All
vacation
done,
for the
done
rest
deal,
of my
done
life.
deal.
Right. But reality is that if startups are successful, they, you will be a founder even if you exit them for 5 to 10 years until you actually can move on to other things. And so that's a marathon, right? You can't possibly live a life just thinking it's a sprint because you're going to burn out, right? And I think you have to be thoughtful about, let's say, if you're a net tech founder, well, you want, let's say your kids are off school, right? You don't travel in August, maybe, which is like the craziest crazy time, but you travel in June when it's, crazy but less, right?
Yeah.
So and that's, every industry. Like if you are in retail, right, you don't go on a, for
Holidays, like,
on a
yeah.
crazy
Christmas
holiday,
Day.
no, disconnected without access maybe on that specific week, but go the week after, right, or something like this, right? So I think you adjust to your circumstances and just don't make it harder on yourself than it should be. And I think at the end of the day, life is too short to not consistently do things that are important to you, right? And I think that travel and adventure is obviously a big part of what makes life so fun.
On this great note, I think, we can wrap it up. Definitely, life is too short not to take opportunities, and definitely, life is too short to see negatives more than positives.
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward, Anna, to our fun additional adventure from New York that we were just planning. And it's going to be very fun. And we're going to have laptops, and I'm going to bring my router, and we're going to be all set.
Let's do it. I'm going to create a lot of content from the backstage. So guys,
Yeah.
make sure you follow us on LinkedIn. We'll share some updates next week while we are actually on the road,
Yeah.
working, traveling, enjoying, eating healthy, tasty food. Let's do tasty food. Right. And thanks everyone for joining, as always.
Thank you, guys. Have a wonderful rest of your day and weekend. And if you can, close that laptop and go explore.
Bye.